What if I told you that one of the most ordinary things in your kitchen, a simple banana, once controlled presidents, toppled governments, sparked wars, and literally redrew the map of Latin America? That behind every banana you eat lies a hidden empire, an empire more powerful than many nations, backed by private armies, foreign intelligence agencies, and corporations so influential they were once nicknamed the octopus. And what if I told you that the modern world of multinational corporations, covert foreign interference, and economic dependency was shaped not by oil, not by gold, but by bananas? Because the story of how bananas transformed Latin America is not just about a fruit. It's about power, it's about exploitation, and it's about a 100-year experiment that still shapes global politics today. To understand this story, we need to go back to the late 1800s when the United States was rapidly industrializing and looking outward for new markets, new resources, and new strategic influence. At the same time, in the tropical regions of Central and South America, something unusual was happening. Railroads were being built where almost no one traveled. Land was being acquired at impossible scale, and a new type of corporation was emerging, one that didn't just sell products. It shaped governments. This corporation eventually became known as United Fruit Company, later Chiquita, and at its peak it controlled 3.5 million acres of land, 90% of the U.S. banana market, telegraph lines, railroads, ports, newspapers, and even national budgets. But how did a fruit company become more powerful than presidents? The answer begins with a man named Minor Keith, a railway tycoon whose decisions would spark a century of political upheaval. How the system started in the 1870s. Minor Keith traveled to Costa Rica to build a railway connecting the mountains to the Caribbean Sea. But the terrain was brutal, the weather was deadly, and thousands of workers died. Keith faced bankruptcy until he noticed something: bananas growing wild near the railway. He started planting his own. Soon, trains were carrying not just passengers, but fruit. By 1890, Keith had more banana income than railway revenue. His model was simple, but devastating. Get land, preferably huge amounts. Build infrastructure the government couldn't afford. Export bananas back to the United States. In return, governments gave Keith tax exemptions, 99-year land leases, monopolies over rail and shipping. This wasn't cooperation. It was dependency. The blueprint had been created, and it would soon be copied across the region. How banana corporations gained power. By the early 1900s, Keith merged his operations with others, creating United Fruit Company, the world's first true multinational empire. United Fruit brought jobs, infrastructure, foreign investment. But it also brought poverty, land theft, political manipulation, racial hierarchy, and near-total economic control. Entire countries became known as banana republics, not because of their culture or people, but because their economies and governments were controlled from corporate boardrooms in Boston and New Orleans. Examples: 1. Honduras. United Fruit controlled over 1 million acres more land than the Honduran government itself. Presidents were installed or removed depending on whether they aligned with company interests. 2. Guatemala. In the 1930s and 40s, United Fruit owned The largest port, the only railroad, vast plantations, and controlled 40% of all arable land. Workers earned cents per day. The company paid almost no taxes. And U.S. diplomats openly defended United Fruit's interests. But then Guatemala elected a new president, and everything changed. The moment everything exploded in 1951, Jacobo Árbenz became president of Guatemala. He wasn't a radical. He wasn't anti-American. He simply believed Guatemalans should own Guatemalan land. He passed a land reform law saying, if any company has unused land, the government can buy it at its declared tax value. United Fruit panicked. Why? Because for years they had undervalued their land to avoid taxes. Now the government was using those same valuations to reclaim it. United Fruit launched one of the most effective propaganda campaigns in U.S. history, labeling Árbenz a communist, lobbying Congress, influencing the media, and pressuring the CIA. The company's top lobbyist, the former U.S. Secretary of State, his brother, the head of the CIA. In 1954, the CIA backed a coup that overthrew Árbenz. Guatemala descended into a 36-year civil war that killed an estimated 100,000 people. All because of land. All because of bananas. What happened after the rise? The pattern repeated across Latin America. Coups, dictatorships, economic dependency, corporations buying political loyalty, and populations trapped in poverty despite rich natural resources. By the 1960s, United Fruit was so unpopular that it faced labor strikes across the continent. In Colombia in 1928, when workers demanded basic rights, the company pressured the government to respond. The military opened fire, killing hundreds, what became known as the Banana Massacre. Writers like Gabriel Garcia Marquez later immortalized the tragedy, but the real victims never saw justice. By the 1970s, United Fruit collapsed under scandals, corruption, and global competition. But the structures it created, foreign dependency, corporate power, political influence, survived. Bananas changed Latin America, but not for the reasons we think. Attempts to correct this system, many leaders tried to break free from foreign control. Land reforms, nationalization, labor laws, import substitution, local agricultural development. But they faced CIA interference, corporate lawsuits, military pressure, trade sanctions, and internal elites tied to foreign companies. Some reforms were reversed. Others triggered conflict. Most never reached full potential. Why? Because the economic model had been designed for dependency from the beginning. Bananas weren't just a crop. They were the mechanism keeping entire nations locked in a cycle they didn't design. Connect to today, shocking data, repeating patterns. You may think this story is over, but it's not. Today, 3 companies control almost 70% of global banana exports. Labor unions in some countries still report 12-hour shifts, wage theft, pesticide exposure, land displacement. And the same pattern of foreign dependency continues, just with new products. Lithium, copper, sugar, palm oil, soy, avocados, and even data centers. The model created during the Banana Empire became the blueprint for modern globalization. The corporations may be different, but the power dynamics almost identical. A simple product can reshape entire nations. Bananas were cheap, fast to grow, and highly profitable. But they came with political consequences no one anticipated. 2. Economic dependency is more powerful than military conquest. Corporations didn't invade countries, they bought them. 3. History repeats through new industries. What bananas were in 1900, lithium, copper, and data are today. If the story of bananas teaches us anything, it's this. When a nation depends on a single product or a single corporation, it risks losing control of its future. The banana empires may have faded, but the structures they built still shape the modern world. If you want more deep dives into how economic power rewrites history, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me which forgotten story I should uncover next. Because the past isn't just behind us, it's still growing all around us, just like the bananas that started it all.